In this video, we will be going over the ceiling joist and the ceiling framing for the 1923 home. So let's go ahead and install the ceiling joist, and these are basically going to be ceiling joist along with the attic floor joist, and they are going to be 2x6. Remember, the wood we are working with is full size lumber, 2 inches by 6 inches, not nominal like you usually get at the lumber yards today. And they are spaced 24 inches on center. Around the fireplace, we're using 1x for our ceiling backing. And of course, this would be lath, not drywall, back in 1923. And of course, we will have a 1-inch space between the fireplace and the wood framing. Another piece of backing here. The doubler here is used to support the doubler that is holding up the ceiling joist in front of the fireplace. More backing, our bathroom. We got backing in the closets. 1x seemed to be a common backing for homes built back then, but don't be surprised to find a 2x. And of course, the 1x would have been used to save a few dollars. Kitchen area and the stairway. The stairway, I am going to put a link here to the stairway video I made on another one of my channels if you want to check that one out. And it wasn't uncommon to have the ceiling joist connect together instead of lapping them with some type of a 1x. And of course, the 1x might not have been used and the ceiling joist would have just sat and broke halfway on top of the top plate, and who knows what other methods they might have used back then. The stairway going down, and if you noticed, I didn't put any blocks in between the ceiling joist here, and of course that would have been something that you would have had to have done today, but I don't think that would have been that big of a deal back then, so I didn't put them in there. And let's go ahead and install our 1x8 floor sheathing, and it would have been installed horizontally instead of diagonally. Later on they started installing floor sheathing diagonally. I'm not 100% sure they did that back in 1923, but feel free, if anybody knows that they did, feel free to share that with us in the comment area. And of course, we had to change the direction of the sheathing here since the direction of the joist changed. Next up, let's take a look at a section of the roof rafters. Here we have an 8 and 12, which of course would give us plenty of room in the attic. The gable wall framing with a window, and again I'm just kind of winging it here because I couldn't see the other side of the house and figured that since there was a window on the other side that there might be a window on this side here. 16 inches on center wall framing studs. 2x6 rafters, and this could have been 2x4, by the way. I made them 2x6, which definitely could have been used back then by home builders. And if you remember, in the original drawing of the 1923 house, the chimney looked like it was on this side of the ridge, which looks like this is where it worked out to be, scaling everything out with the model. And at the end of both sides of the ridge here, we have a couple of small hips coming off to create a nice decorative shape for the end of the gable wall. And I've seen a lot of homes where something like this seemed to be extremely popular during this period. And of course, the jack rafters coming down to the valley. And now let's swing around to the other side of the building where we can see where we have the same wall. And I would imagine these windows were for light more than anything, and that the attic was used for living space too. And I'm sure there are plenty of homes today that were built like this where the attic has been converted to living space. View of the window header and the framing. Next up, let's put the support walls for the rafters in. You can see it here in case you were wondering why we stopped the floor sheathing where we stopped it. And I simply used 1x to connect the wall framing studs to the rafters. Again, everything is 24 inches on center, and it would have been nice to have the rafters next to the ceiling joist so that the support stud would be sitting on top of something instead of in the middle of the floor sheathing, if it even had floor sheathing underneath it. I mean, if it was me, I would have installed the floor sheathing first and then built the roof so that I would have had something to stand on while building the roof. But they could have used scaffold, built the roof, and then came back and installed the floor sheathing later. And if that's the case, then they wouldn't have had any floor sheathing sheathing underneath the 2x support, which could have reduced the strength for any of the support studs if they located on top of the plate instead of directly over the ceiling joist. Our one window floor sheathing, the attic area, and what looks like it was meant to be used as some type of living or storage space, obviously. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the roof sheathing. And I just simply matched the floor sheathing. I used 1x8, spaced it so that cedar shingles could be installed. And the breaks are staggered. And your house might not look like this because more than likely they would have took this piece and then cut this piece out of it and then use that piece to start over here and then put a full piece and then work their way up throughout the project. However, it was definitely easier for me to do it this way, and that is the way it gets done. And of course, the decorative hips here into the roof, gable roof, and obviously the sheathing isn't lining up with the other pieces, no problem. Fireplace, chimney, sheathing in the front, and of course this wall to match the other wall on the opposite side. View from above with a valley on each side. And now let's go ahead and take a look at our porch. Zoom in there. And it wouldn't have been uncommon to just have the fill rafters sitting on top of the 1x6 and having the 1x6 support the ridge, because there wouldn't have been a lot of weight on something like this. And of course we have our collar ties here, sheathing, nice looking porch. Take a look at our overhang here. We have overhang for the crown molding, even though I didn't install the crown molding because that would have took me too long. However, I am going to provide you with some crown molding, or at least a detail here that might have been acceptable. Something like this, and it would have worked its way all the way around the roof. And that is it for this video. I don't know if this is the end of the series. If I make more videos, I will throw them into the playlist created for this, and they will also be located on the website for anything concerned with the 1923 house framing project, whether it's remodeling or even putting a room addition onto it in the future.